Silicon Valley, technology, art, green, and sustainability.
Welcome to another episode of Silicon Valley Tech, Art, Green, and Sustainability, SVTAGS. Today with me, I have Cheri Del Carlo. I'm so honored to have you with me today. And we're going to be talking about your dad's art. And he's a photographer. They call him Del, but his name's Arnold?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And Arnold Del Carlo. So his work is amazing, and you're going to talk about that in a bit. But before we look at the art and talk about his work, tell us a little bit about you. You have such an interesting background.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Heather, for having me on your show. This is quite a thrill to be here. A little bit about myself. I mean, you know, I'm from the area, from the South Bay area. My folks still live in the house that I grew up in. You know, basically, from a child, you know, actually, all of my siblings, we all have photographs of our entire lives.
How many
given
siblings
that my father's, there's 5 of us.
5, okay.
So given that my father's a, you know, retired professional photographer, you know, his entire life pretty much, we have photos of everything. So
and then,
not a moment missed.
And then you have just recently lived around the world. Tell us a little bit about that. You
I
were
got
Paraguay?
Uruguay.
I always want to say Paraguay.
Yeah, I got to live abroad for a little while, for about a year, which was fun and interesting. Got to work a couple part-time jobs at a U.S. embassy there in Uruguay in the main city of Montevideo. And then after that, moved to Washington, D.C. and was there for about a year and a half. And then just this last fall, moved back to the Bay Area.
And in your background, you did marketing, correct?
I did. I dabbled in social media marketing, actually.
Okay.
So,
and I heard you were very good at it. So, yeah.
Thank you.
From several
you know,
people.
Folks still reach out to me today asking, "Hey, are you still doing social media marketing?" And I say, "Well, you know, no, I've moved on to my other career path." So I always end up referring, you know, a friend or two to help out with those small projects that come up still.
Which is really great.
Yeah.
And then, so your dad's work, we're looking behind us, and we'll see some slides in a bit. He was a photographer, and how long was he a photographer? And does he still do that, I should ask, too?
So he has slowed down quite a bit. He is 95 years old. He's going to be 96 in June.
Wow.
He still
and he's still driving, and
they're still driving, still doing their same things, just at a much slower pace, as you can imagine. But he started off doing photography, I think, in his early teens, while living in St. Paul, Minnesota, growing up there. You know, built a dark room in the basement of his parents' home. So it was really a hobby of his. And really, he's one of those few people that had a passion for something and got to live it out as a career, build a career out of it, and you know, had a thriving business.
And
here.
he went to college for it, and then
Actually,
did he study?
No, he self-studied entirely. So he's won many awards over the years. I think one of his big ones was he was awarded as master photographer by the American Photography Association, and you know, we still have lots of trophies around the house and all that good stuff. So he had a studio here in Silicon Valley in Santa Clara for over 30 years, and retired right as the digital age was coming on. But basically, you know, photography has been a really big part of Silicon Valley.
And so does he still, as a hobby, do a little photography, or not at all?
No, he still has his cameras. He does a little bit, you know, nearly not like what he used to. You know, he loved being able to take pictures and then go upstairs to his computer and print the photo. So the funny thing was that, well, Dad, you know, it's digital now. We don't really take print photos. We email them to each other, and he never really got to that part. He was thrilled to just be able to take a digital camera and go print out, you know, an image that he just took. You know, he'd mess with the color or fix the eyes and that kind of thing. And
there's so many different categories of photographers? Did he do weddings? Did he do corporate? Did he do the whole
Oh, he did the whole
gamut?
thing. So
Okay.
commercial photographer, through and through, weddings, portraits, commercial, aerials.
Real estate, probably, everything.
Oh yeah, everything, yes.
Yeah, interesting. So Color by the Bay, which is what's behind us, and it's just so beautiful. I've seen postcards and on the web, to see this in person it's just beautiful. Tell us about this and what this was. And actually, let's pull up a photo of your dad too, really quick.
Okay,
Sorry.
sure.
So let's pull this photo up of the first photo of her dad. Tell us about the photo.
So this is of my father. Actually, another gentleman, another photographer, took this photo of my father, and it was actually his last flight in the plane. He sold the plane shortly thereafter. I think what was happening is he wasn't able to pass some of the exams for hearing, but otherwise he would still be flying today if they were going to be continuing to grant him his license, his pilot's license. But I mean, he flew a small plane like that ever since I was born.
So you got to fly with him a lot.
Oh yeah, we flew a lot. Yeah, definitely. That was a lot of fun. And he cut a hole in the floor of his plane. So that's where he would, position his Hasselblad cameras, and then have a long cord to be snapping.
So that was going to be my question. So how did he take the photos if he was driving the plane?
Yeah, so flying, and then, but he typically always had another person with him in the plane. He rarely, in fact, it was like emergency situation where, a few times where he had to go up by himself and do that. And believe me, he was very stressed out about doing it. But he always had another person in the plane doing it with them. And then he would shoot orthogonally through, or not orthogonally, but through the plane windows, but mostly just straight down through the floor, through the floor of the plane.
And so Color by the Sea, again, is the name?
Color by the Bay.
Color by the Bay.
Yes, so this is a collection of images that he was not commissioned to do. He, again, being a photographer, and a pilot, he noticed that the colors coming up from the South Bay area, when the salt ponds were still very active and salt was still being harvested, of course, if you know much about what happens in these ponds, the colors change. So, of course, being an artist, he just went one day in the mid-'80s and flew over them for about 20 minutes and probably clicked off over 100 images of these salt flats, and also at a very low altitude.
So let's pull up the first slide. We have some behind us too, but let's pull up the first slide of the salt ponds. So I like the title of this, the womb. It's funny because when you look at the photos on screen and then you look at it on the TV, and then the different screens change the colors too. So when I pulled the photo from one place and put it in the other, this to me looks like purples and whites, and this is just great.
Pull this down, and it's good that you pulled that one up first, because actually that's the one right behind you.
This is the same one. Okay.
Yeah, that's the print.
Can we get a close up of this too? I don't know so we'll see how it looks from photo. Do I need to? We can get a close up on that.
Yeah.
So it looks different from the digital image to this. I mean, this is so beautiful. Yeah.
Right. And so let me clarify a little bit. So the original photographs, the negatives, are film.
Okay.
My father digitized them and enhanced the color just a little bit. So you're going to get a richer version, of what is in the original negative. So to your point, when you look at it on different screens, it's going to change. But we had these printed. This is a Gicleé form of printing, and it's on canvas. And these are premium quality prints, so these are going to last a long time.
So Gicleé, is it a brand, or is it the type?
It's a type of inkjet printing onto canvas.
Okay.
So it's a computerized inkjet print onto canvas.
It's great. And then these are wrapped. Well, these are wrapped here.
And they're gallery wrapped.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So it's really nice. So what inspired them then? He saw that there was this different colors, but what actually inspired him to do like a series on these, basically?
Well, he had this collection, in his archives since the mid-'80s, and it wasn't until probably about 6 years ago that both my mother and father said, we really ought to do something with these photographs. My father's never really taken his work and put it out there as art. So this is an unusual collection in that he really does want to see it out there as art. And these are very abstract images, and they would work really well. You know, we've got them at
some
these
of them look like
particular
Pollock
sizes.
paintings or something, right?
Exactly.
I mean, they don't like it. At first, you're like, wait, that's actually a real thing. It doesn't look.
These are photographs. Yeah, they're not. It's not a painting, you know, and they are very abstract. I don't know if you can see this one behind me, but this is there's an electricity tower, one of the towers still, you know,
and let's pull up another slide, because I think this is in the slides too, so we can talk about it on the slides.
Yes.
Let's pull another slide up, guys. I don't know if they're. There we go. So this one here, I love this. I'd love to have a small copy of this one.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, is it?
I love Red Tide.